that smoke, I still gotta fuck you up, AJ. Like, you don't understand. You the one bitch that got away, and I'm gonna find you though, cause you know he don't want that smoke. You know, he don't want that fucking smoke.
He don't want that smoke with the baby Miller.
He came to America, never came back.
I guess it's Jerrell Miller Day, because Jerrell Miller has once again struck back in his latest interview with, I believe it was Fight Hype. Shout out to one of those guys. And he stated that Anthony Joshua is the one bitch that got away. He got his ass whooped in America and he never came back. He has to come see me at some point. And let me counterpunch. I think at this point, sure, paydays are always welcome. But I think besides paydays, I think that fight should be personal for AJ. You know, one thing about Jerrell Miller and AJ, it would sell. That shit would sell, you know, in 2029, that fight would sell. Because the animosity between Jerrell Miller and Anthony Joshua is authentic. It's not something that, it's not like the AJ Dubois shit. Like, AJ had nothing against Dubois. I mean, that was pretty much, you know, like, hey, you know, don't disrespect me, Daniel. And this, you know, Daniel was just trying something that someone told Daniel to do. Daniel don't even, that's not even his personality. No, what Jerrell Miller did was not only intentional, it was personal. And when AJ took it, the way he responded was also authentic and personal. Okay, so it was more of a realistic response from AJ, because AJ was thinking to himself, like, why is Jerrell Miller pressing me so hard? I really don't like this guy. And Jerrell Miller don't really like AJ. You know what I mean? AJ, for the first time I've ever seen AJ, you think about the fights up until that point, up until 2019, who had AJ fought before that point? I mean, he fought Joseph Parker for the WBO unification with the IBF and the WBA. He fought Vladimir Klitschko. He fought Charles Martin, which Charles Martin had a lot to say, like, I'm going to walk right over you because I walk this earth like a god. Dominic Breazeale, which Dominic Breazeale, you know, talked a lot of smack too, because at the time, Dominic Breazeale, believe it or not, he was undefeated. He was 19-0 when he went over to the UK to challenge AJ. Okay, and then they had words, but AJ was cordial. He was just like, you know, you're not going to do nothing to me. You know, don't be like all the other Americans and talk smack and then not back it up, which I thought was pretty G, honestly, at the time. But he was reserved. He was calm. Okay. So, you know, Klitschko, you know, gentleman, so they had no beef there. But all of those guys, you know, Charles Martin, Dominic Breazeale, he had an issue. He didn't have an issue with them, except for Jerrell Miller. Jerrell Miller was that one exception that made him come out of his comfort zone, that made us all see the dark side of AJ. Okay, that yang of AJ, everybody saw that yang, but that damn yang, we saw that firsthand. You're a bitch. I'm gonna cut you up. I'm gonna take your face and slice it like a surgeon. Remember what he said? He was pissed. He was so pissed at Jerrell Miller. He was so pissed at Jerrell Miller that it got personal. That Jerrell Miller shoved him and moved his ass back and made him look like Neo and shit. Listen, that was all real. And see, the one thing, that was the one fight that didn't happen that was supposed to happen for so many reasons. But it only took one reason, and it was because those guys don't like each other. It's not because Jerrell Miller cheated. It's not because, well, it didn't happen because he cheated. Okay, hold on. Let me back up. But that fight should have happened solely because he did not like Jerrell Miller. So calling him a drug cheat does not warrant you not fighting him. You see what I mean? I mean, that doesn't mean anything, because believe it or not, Anthony Joshua's fought people that has tested positive for things as well. So, Robert Helenius, of course, Dillian White, with his issues with the PEDs and banned substances. So, those type of things have taken place. So you can't say I don't fight fighters that test dirty. You see what I mean? Because you fought your last couple guys, either you fought or you tried to fight, has tested some type of way and it was not negative. Let's put it that way. So, you can miss me with the reason why you don't fight Jerrell Miller. I mean, that should be a fight. And I know AJ's about that money. He's a businessman and all that. But sometimes you got to say, fuck business and let me do something for my own personal growth. Let me handle Jerrell Miller like I should have handled Jerrell Miller in 2019, ultimately changing the alternate universe of my reality from him testing positive for PEDs. Hence, that's the reason why I didn't fight him, because of that, and the only reason. That's why I fought Andy Ruiz, and got upset, instead of fighting Jerrell Miller. Jerrell Miller is the reason why. It's so many reasons to fight Jerrell Miller for Anthony Joshua that we can just pull out of the sky, like stars. There's many reasons, and for Jerrell Miller to say, hey, you know what? This fight has to happen, and for so many reasons. So I suggested Jerrell Miller. Yes, he can talk any fight into existence like we've seen him do. He can hype any fight, he can build any fight, and all that. But he has to win these fights from now on to possibly get a fight with AJ, if that fight happens. Because I would rather see AJ fight Jerrell Miller than any other fight, really. Because that's a fight that's supposed to happen when AJ was undefeated, when AJ was unified heavyweight champion of the world. The only belt that he lacked was the WBC. When all those belts were on the line, he was supposed to fight Jerrell Miller as a voluntary. So I would say this: if Jerrell Miller keeps winning, fight him. Because Jerrell Miller ain't going nowhere. He's not going to stop talking. As long as he has breath in his lungs, he's going to talk shit. He's a Brooklynite. People from New York, they'll talk shit when you kick their ass, they're still going to talk shit. That's just the New York way. But Anthony Joshua, yeah, he has to see Jerrell Miller. I mean, and he has to do it in America. That's the other thing. That's the catch-22. It can't be out there in Saudi. Can't be in the UK. No. It has to be in Madison Square Garden. And that's AJ's way of full circling. Like, look, remember me? I was supposed to fought you in 2019, but you cheated me. Or you cheated your way out of fighting me. But guess what? You got to see me again, because I took it personally of the things that you said. You literally had me pissed off. I literally wanted to punch you in your face when I seen you. We went back and forth lyrically, physically, right? A lot of ways they went back and forth. They were both on The Breakfast Club. They were both on Sway in the Morning. They were there promoting that fight. That fight sold. Okay. And understand something else. Between AJ and Jerrell Miller, those two fighters sold and broke that record. Sure, yeah, people will probably have bought it of AJ, sure. I'm pretty sure, because he was Anthony Joshua. I mean, he's still Anthony Joshua, but that Anthony Joshua was this newborn star that was kicking ass overseas, and then he finally did the British invasion and came to the America's shore and docked. Okay? So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it would have sold, but Jerrell Miller, based on him being undefeated, they're both undefeated fighters. Based on, the animosity that built up, based on, a lot of things that, AJ became unglued. You know what I mean? Like, so many things that happened, and that, the record-breaking 2 hours that shit was sold out. You couldn't get a ticket in that third hour of when they released tickets to be available to buy. You couldn't buy any. That's how fast that shit sold out. So it was those two guys that sold that fight. Not AJ and Andy, no. AJ and Jerrell Miller. So, The energy is still there. The potential is still there. And let me leave you with this. Views makes news, and news represents views, right? You guys remember the days of reckoning. The one video that stuck out was Sky Sports, where AJ and Jerrell Miller were in the forum, right? They were in a lobby of wherever they had that press conference. And that video is probably close to 1 million views. Okay, so that video alone, but just between them two guys, were way up in views. Why? Because the potential of those guys wanting to fight is that high. The interest is that high. You can't deny the views. You can deny the news, but you can't deny the views. Okay, and that views were up there, and they trumped even the days of reckoning, which was about 3 hours long because they had to represent everybody with the promoters and everybody from the East Coast to the West Coast to the east of the world to the west of the world, you know, and even that wasn't like maybe a couple 100,000. But those two guys, damn near 1 million views. Let that sink in. But you guys tell me what you think of Jerrell Miller saying that AJ is that one bitch that got away. He has to eventually see me for a final showdown. Eventually, actually. Tell me what you think. Please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.